Remember that article you sent about this year's Nobel Prize in medicine? The one about those two scientists and their work with those tiny worms?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Victor Ambros and Gary Ruvkun.
Right. Ambros and Ruvkun. And those tiny worms, C. elegans?
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
It really is. Turns out those little worms held the key to a whole hidden layer of control in our genes, these things called microRNAs. They're like the secret puppet masters of our cells, deciding which genes get to direct the show and which ones get silenced.
It's wild. Before this, we were so focused on DNA as the be-all and end-all of genetic information. Like the blueprint of life. But we were missing a big part of the picture.
Yeah, so where did these microRNAs fit in? If DNA is the blueprint, what are they?
Think of it this way. The blueprint doesn't come with a construction crew. MicroRNAs are like the foreman on a building site, making sure the right parts of the blueprint get built at the right time in the right way.
Okay, so they're not changing the blueprint itself, they're just managing how it's interpreted.
Exactly. They fine-tune gene expression, making sure everything runs smoothly.
And this discovery all started with those tiny worms, C. elegans, right? What's so special about them?
Ah, C. elegans. They're like the lab rats of the molecular biology world. Both Ambros and Ruvkun were studying them independently, trying to figure out how genes control their development.
And that's where these microRNAs popped up.
They did. See, they were both looking at these genes, Lin4 and Lin14, that are super important for the worm's development.
Right.
And both of them found something strange.
Okay, what'd they find? This is the part where things get really interesting.
Well, Lin4 wasn't making a protein like most genes do. Instead, it was producing this tiny snippet of RNA that could bind to Lin14's messenger RNA.
Hold on, back up a sec. Messenger RNA, that's like the courier, right? Carrying the genetic instructions from the DNA blueprint to the protein-making machinery of the cell.
You got it.
So Lin4's microRNA was intercepting this courier? Was it like a molecular thief?
Not quite. More like a molecular roadblock. It was preventing Lin14's messenger RNA from delivering its protein-building instructions.
Wow. It's like finding out your phone has a whole hidden operating system controlling things behind the scenes. So this tiny piece of RNA had a big job.
Huge. It really was a game changer, you see, because it showed that this tiny microRNA from Lin4, it was acting like a timer, making sure Lin14 was only active at exactly the right time during the worm's development.
Timing is everything, huh? At least for these worms. But you're saying this is about way more than just, worm development, right?
Way more. I mean, at first, a lot of scientists were like, okay, interesting, worms.
Yeah.
But so what?
Yeah, because who really cares about microscopic worm timelines, right?
Right. But Ambros and Ruvkun, they suspected there was more to it, and well, they were right. See, what they had actually stumbled onto was a completely new layer of genetic control. It's like a hidden language operating within our cells.
A hidden language. Okay, I like where this is going. So DNA is the blueprint, microRNAs are the foreman. What does that make this hidden language?
It's the communication between the two. It's a whole new set of signals that fine-tune how our genes are expressed. Like, think of it this way.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's like those little subtitles at the bottom of the screen, adding nuance and context to what's being said. They don't change the words, but they can totally change how you understand the message.
Okay, that's a really helpful analogy. But, and I hate to keep going back to this, but we humans aren't just big, complicated worms, right? So how did they figure out that this hidden language was happening in more complex creatures, like us?
Good point. It took some time. But researchers eventually discovered that this microRNA system, it wasn't just some quirk of worms, or even just animals for that matter. Plants, animals, even some viruses, they all use microRNAs. It's a fundamental mechanism of life.
Wow, so this wasn't just about understanding how a worm develops. It revolutionized our understanding of how genes work, period. In everything. Talk about a huge impact.
Absolutely massive. It's like we discovered this secret code that every living thing is using to manage its own internal operations. And the implications of that, huge, especially when you think about the medical possibilities.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
I love a good medical mystery. So how does this all connect to human health? What's the connection?
Well, remember those microRNAs, right? The conductors of our cellular orchestra, making sure everything runs in harmony.
Right, right.
Imagine what happens if those conductors get things wrong. They cue the wrong instruments, or maybe they miss a beat.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster. A musical mess.
Exactly. When microRNAs are out of whack, too many, too few, the wrong ones at the wrong time, it throws the whole system off balance. And scientists are finding that these imbalances in microRNA are linked to, well, a whole range of diseases.
So now it's all starting to click. So those articles you sent over about specific disease mentioned in the listeners' materials, you're saying microRNAs could be a factor there.
They could be. It's a rapidly developing area of research. Scientists are still, piecing everything together, but the potential here, incredible.
It's like we've been reading this whole genetic instruction manual wrong. Like, we thought it was just the blueprint, but now we're realizing there's a whole other language layered on top.
Exactly. And not just reading it, but potentially rewriting it. That's the real game changer. That's the promise of microRNA therapy.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Rewriting the manual. So instead of just treating symptoms, we could actually target the root cause of a disease at the genetic level.
Precisely. Scientists are already developing therapies using synthetic microRNAs, tailor-made to target specific genes. It's like having a molecular scalpel instead of a sledgehammer.
Okay, so how would that work? Give me an example.
Let's take cancer, for example. In many cancers, you see certain genes that regulate cell growth. They get stuck in the on position. The cells just keep multiplying out of control.
Like a car stuck in overdrive.
Perfect analogy. So imagine if we could deliver a synthetic microRNA designed to target that overactive gene and silence it, like hitting the brakes on those runaway cells.
Whoa. That's amazing. You mentioned those articles I sent over about microRNA therapies and other diseases too, right? Like Alzheimer's and heart disease?
Yes, those are huge areas of research right now. For example, with Alzheimer's, scientists are exploring microRNAs that could target those harmful protein plaques that build up in the brain.
It's incredible, really. It's like we've been trying to fight these diseases with one hand tied behind our backs, and now suddenly we have a whole new arsenal.
And because microRNAs are so precise, so targeted in which genes they go after, these therapies could be much more effective. And they could come with fewer side effects than, say, traditional chemotherapy or radiation.
That's huge. So potentially, we could be on the verge of a whole new era of personalized medicine, all because of these tiny molecules first discovered in, of all things, worms.
It really goes to show you never know where the next big breakthrough is going to come from.
Absolutely. But you said it yourself earlier. We're just scratching the surface here, right? There's still so much we don't know about microRNAs.
Oh, absolutely. We've identified thousands of them in the human body, but we're still figuring out what they all do. It's like having this massive control panel with thousands of buttons, and we're just starting to understand what a few of them actually control.
That's both exciting and kind of daunting, isn't it?
It's the thrill of the unknown. That's what makes this research so compelling.
This whole deep dive just reminds me why I love science. It's all about unraveling those mysteries, no matter how small they seem at first. And who knew that those tiny worms would hold the key to such a powerful secret about human health?
It's a testament to the power of curiosity and the importance of basic research. Never underestimate the power of a good question.
Well said. And for you listening, remember, this is just the beginning of the microRNA story. As scientists continue to explore this incredible new world, who knows what other groundbreaking discoveries await? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating world of microRNAs.